Welcome to the CMO Spotlight. And I'm here today with Cliff Chiet, who is the Chief Integrated Marketing Director for iHeartMedia. And I want to welcome you. Thanks for being here, Cliff.
Well, Joe, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Absolutely. So I wondered if you could just start by telling us a little more about iHeartMedia, what it is. I know many people know of the iHeartMedia brand, but I don't think they really understand the scale and scope of the organization.
Yeah, well, iHeartMedia is a brand that, in fact, it was my son at a young age who says, "Dad, get over it. It's a big company. Everybody knows iHeart." When I showed him in a Target that now the TVs are equipped with the iHeartRadio app, he was like, "Get over yourself, Dad."
That's cool.
But what's exciting about the company, and a lot of people don't know what's under the hood, like any company, you hear the brand, but you don't really know the extensiveness of who we are as a company. But iHeartMedia is the leading audio and entertainment company in America. And we reach 90% of Americans. And a lot of people are shocked by that. They say, well, are you saying you're bigger than Google and Facebook? And the answer is, yeah, we have a larger, a more scalable audience. What people don't know about it is it's more than radio. It's audio. It's the world of audio. And as we can both agree, audio is just taken off because of the fact that it resonates with people. But what more importantly, it's like wherever people are, wherever you go, you can take audio with you, whether you're in the car, whether you're working out, walking your dog, whatever you're doing, it's on the go marketing. And what's really changed is the technology and all the different places you can consume it. So I think what's really changed the world for us has been data and our ability with the iHeartRadio app becoming the fastest app to ever get to 50 million users, faster than Twitter. We're now at 140 million registered users. And what that did is give us data that allowed us to get into the data world. What a lot of people learn very quickly is audio is massive, and it's about storytelling, what we're doing now. But we also have the ability, people would never imagine that we do 20,000 events a year.
Yeah, right.
And all these other things. So it really comes down to reaching audiences no matter where they are and what they're doing.
Cool. Well, yeah, I know that the events have grown like gangbusters, and then obviously they must have taken a pause during COVID, but they're probably back now as well.
Well, I remember when everything happened, how I felt like the biggest thing people were going to miss is live music. We were the first ones to actually do a virtual concert, and we had Elton John be part of that, and we actually had a very intimate series that we did in people's living rooms, playing in their own home, playing piano, playing guitar, whatever it was, and it really went over well. But let's face it, there was only so much screen time people wanted to, they missed the energy, and we missed the energy of live music, and now we have it back in full swing.
Absolutely. So I'm curious for you to just tell us a little bit more about your role as Chief Integrated Marketing Director. What does the team look like, and sort of what is your function within the organization?
Well, listen, everybody's in marketing for the most part. When you're out there talking to your friends and your family and what have you, how do you feel about iHeartMedia? And is it something that you can speak to with pride? Is it something that you can be able to keep I kind of use that analogy or example of like what Google does, that everybody's in marketing. Yeah. So even if you work in the accounting office, you're talking about your brand, and, we want everyone feeling good about working at the company. And I think that most importantly, it's that culture, of people feeling like they want to be here. They feel like they're making a difference. They're part of, where the company's going for the future, so on and so forth. But, we have two clients in essence. We have the listeners and the fans, and then obviously we need to monetize. So we have all of our sponsors and all of our advertisers. What I do is I really focus a lot on the client facing side of the business, and making sure that whatever brand comes to us, that we're able to leverage our experience, our audiences, and our assets to be able to help grow them. And that's really in a nutshell. But in the same breath, we must have that stickiness to the audience to keep coming back. So it's almost like you're using both sides of your brain. You're saying, okay, how can we keep the fans coming so that the fans can become fans of the brands, that support us. And whenever somebody says something about advertising, I said, how much do you pay for your radio in your car to listen? And they go, nothing. I go, exactly. That's why we need sponsors and advertisers to keep the trains going.
I'm curious, I know you've been at the company for a little over 9 years now, which is a pretty nice run. Curious if you could just tell us a little bit quickly just about your career path and what led you there. And
well, I appreciate that. It's funny, if I go back and look at my diploma or my many years ago, I studied radio.
huh?
And I almost kind of forgot, because I'm talking about doing it in the dark ages where, there was no technology.
Or
And
cards.
it was all carts, and I was editing like with razor blade,
Yeah.
whoop, whoop, whoop. And what I realized is at a very young age, when I was going to college, is that I really wanted to be in the advertising world. I really liked the idea of using creative persuasion, to get people to engage. I wanted to be a copywriter, and I couldn't find a job. I could not find any agency that wanted to hire me fresh out of college, to write copy. So I came across an ad that a local newspaper was looking to hire a salesperson. And I went in for the interview and I said, if I get this job, will I be able to write the copy? And they were laughing. They go, knock yourself out, right?
Right. Yeah. Go for
Yeah.
it.
And then I got a commission check on the sale, and I go, wait a minute, I like this. You actually get paid based on performance here. So my career started with a local newspaper, and then my whole career took a path in publishing. So I ended up getting with the Washington Post company, and I started launching magazines and newspapers for years. But really stretching the boundaries of what newspapers and magazines could do. I was doing a lot of events, and I was doing a lot of different things there. And then I think it was on that one day one day too many, that I was walking my dog around the neighborhood, and I was taking the community newspaper and throwing it up closer to the person's front door, and realized people weren't picking up their newspapers like they used to. And I said, as much as I've enjoyed being in publishing, I'm probably last of the Mohicans, if you will. And I really need to figure out how to reinvent myself. And I started exploring electronic media. And it came full circle when I joined iHeart, and I realized that it wasn't so much different than publishing. It was a different way of delivering the audiences. But more importantly, there was a tremendous upside to the future of where audio was going versus where print newspapers and magazines were going.
Well,
So
it's still the content business.
Excuse me.
It's still the content business. It's just a different.
Yeah, it is the content business, and it's all about community. Like every radio station in the country, we own 850 radio stations. Every one of them has a different listener base, a different audience. We're the companion, to that audience on a daily basis. We're a habit, we're a ritual, and times 850 radio stations across the country. And it's just important to not lose sight of the fact that we're only as good as that level of engagement and that habit we create, with the audience.
I love that. I'm curious if there's a piece of advice that you either wish that you'd gotten early in your career, or maybe a piece of advice you'd give somebody that's just starting out in either a marketing career or a media career.
It's funny you should say that. Anybody who is willing to, it's all about paying it forward. So if I talk to somebody, I have people call me up and say, look, my neighbor's son, Jimmy, would you be willing to talk to him and just give him whatever advice you can? And I was Jimmy at some point in my life, and I needed to, hear about it. But as you can tell, brevity is not my strong suit. So I think in retrospect, I try to emphasize the importance of listening as much as talking. And sometimes people get so focused on what they're going to say that they're not listening to what the person's saying. And I actually feel the best gift that you can give any individual is your attention.
Mm.
So I wish I would have known that earlier in my career. And as I have adopted it more, and I felt like it's easier to align yourself with somebody when you make that connection. And you can't make that connection if you're not absorbing what they're sharing. So I try to make sure that people know it. The other piece of advice I give anyone is don't wait for a job to be created. Create the job.
Mm.
And that was something that I did in my career. I never waited for there to be a ad promoting an opening. I would call the company I want to work for, and I did it several times in my life, and just said, this is who I am, and this is what I bring to the table, and I would like to help you go where you want to go. And they would say, well, we don't really have any openings. I said, it's inevitable that you will. And I want you to think of me when that happens. Sure enough, that has led to actually, even with iHeart, they created a position that didn't exist for me when I came on board. But if I would have waited till the floodgates opened up and everybody else. So as people are looking for jobs, I'm telling them, don't wait for them to come to you. You go to them. You
I
create
love
your
that advice. I actually recently told some job seekers that they should write the job description of their ideal job, of what they're great at and what companies would need. So the intersection of what they're great at, what the companies would need, and write it as a job description, and then go to an employer and say, here's the job that I'm great at. Do you need somebody like me? And that's different than saying, here's a list of stuff that I've done in my resume.
Yeah, I mean, we can all agree, if you position yourself as an asset, then that's attractive.
Yeah.
But again, I think the big mistake a lot of people make is they don't know how to sell themselves. They're good at selling other things, but when it really comes to packaging themselves and why somebody should have them as an asset to their company, I try to get them to create their own commercial.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, so that leads me to the next question, which I believe everybody has a superpower. So I'm curious what you feel your superpower is.
A superpower, if I had to name it, I would say there are some people that are not very good at networking.
Mm.
And they'll go there, they'll go to the food, they'll go to the bar, and they'll stand up against the wall somewhere. And from a very young age, I really became pretty good at working a room and being able to meet everybody in the room and start conversations and build relationships. And even to this day, I go with certain people and I see them, just kind of talking to the same person for 2 hours. And I said, I want to meet everybody here. So like if I go with my wife somewhere, like a wedding, whatever, I'll know everybody in the room by the end of the day. Hey, okay, good night, Cliff. And my wife will be like, when did you meet them? So I think it's that. And I think part of what comes from that is that, once you make that contact is to follow up and to actually build a relationship and try to build a sustainable relationship. So it's not like there are people that go to network and they get a stack of business cards and they never do anything with it.
Yeah.
So that you need to have that 1-2, meeting somebody, then I'm going to follow up because probably 9 out of 10 people won't. And I don't want to be that guy. So, so I'll always try to make it an effort to make sure that I thank the person and that I can make something out of the conversation.
I'm curious where you go for inspiration, either for yourself or for your team.
It's interesting in terms of inspiration. I really think that For me, it's about having intellectual honesty, you
Mm,
know, and not beat yourself up so much. And sometimes the best inspiration you can find is within yourself.
mm,
And you know, because we can be really hard on ourselves as individuals, as professionals. And I think it's okay to know that you didn't do something the way you probably would have, and then what can you take away from that to improve yourself. So for me, it's being kind to myself
mm.
and realizing that not every day is going to be, you know, like the best version of myself, and that I can recover, and to recover from that. And also, you know, not to take rejection as, you know, or if somebody doesn't get back to you as this person's not interested, but
Mhm.
just to understand, put that other shoe, you know, their shoe on your foot and say, you know, I'm busy too. How much time do I really have to have conversations? And sometimes it's funny when people solicit me or reach out to me, I kind of say, oh, I wonder if I sound like that guy. So
Yeah.
sometimes I get inspired by people who try to do business with me or reach out to me and just say, boy, you know, that was terrible. You know, and learn from that. And then I try to share that same advice that I give myself, you know, to people, because, you know, it's like, you know, I don't know if you play golf, but I'm not a great golfer. I'm very average at best. But I watch guys who are better than me just like have such a crappy day on the golf course because they're so hard on themselves and they
Mm.
get in their head. And then meanwhile, I hit a bad shot, you know, there's going to be a good one coming along somewhere. You know, just don't beat yourself up like that. And to me, I'd rather play golf with people that don't take it as seriously as people who are, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to play in the pros? You know?
You just reminded me of a lyric from, since music is a part of your life and part of mine too. The lyric from a song by Jeremy Lyons and the Delta Billy Boys about count your chickens before they hatch. And he says in the song, if you count your chickens before they hatch and they never hatch, at least you got to count them once. If you
Right.
count them before they hatch and they do hatch, you get to count them twice. So
Right.
I think maybe it's the ultimate optimist's advice there.
Absolutely. And look, we all have dark days, and we realize, you know, am I still good at this and what have you? But you know, that validation has to start with you.
Yeah.
Because you know, you can wait a long time waiting for somebody else to tell you, hey, you're good at this.
I'm curious if there are values that you want to demonstrate as a leader or that you would maybe demand of somebody on your team.
You know, in terms of values, it's respect. Um, you know, it goes back to listening. You know, I remember when I coached soccer, kids soccer for 13 years. And it all because my kids didn't want to play and my wife signed me up as a coach. But I remember at the first day of practice, we would all stand in a circle and everybody would introduce themselves, and it was awkward, of course, for these young kids. But when somebody was not paying attention, you know, I would stop and just say, hey, you know, Jimmy's talking. Everybody, if Jimmy's talking, you should be looking at Jimmy, right? You know, show that person the respect, you know. So
Mhm.
to me, it was really that idea of valuing another person's time and showing them the due respect they deserve. Again, you know, how would you want to be treated? You know, when you talk, do you want everybody looking at the sky, at the grass, whatever? Do you want people to pay attention to you? And they didn't really know where I was going. I thought this was soccer. But then when it came down to communicating on the field, you know, they were looking at each other and they were able to, you know, pay attention and respond to whatever, you know, pass they were getting or anything. So it was funny. If I started with that, no matter if you're working with a company or playing kids soccer on a field, you know, I think the same rules apply, as just, you know, having that respect.
That's great. So at Setup, we're marketing matchmakers, which often means that we connect brands and marketing agencies together. And so we sort of live in that space. We're not a marketing agency. We're not on the client side. We sort of live in that space in between. And so that gives us a unique view into the agency client relationship. We do an annual marketing relationship survey that we try to understand that relationship between brands and agencies. I'm curious just generally how you work with agencies, either, at iHeart now or even in the past.
Well, what's interesting is that iHeart, we have really internally created all of the things that we could possibly need. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, because sometimes you're still so close to it that that you're not hearing an outside kind of perspective. So we have a design hub. We have everything that you can imagine, copywriting, all those things, so that we can help the clients be able to spend their dollars on outreach, and media and impressions and what have you. So in one respect, we ourselves don't work with agencies for our creative branding and things like that, not to mention we are the media. But in the same breath, a lot of our clients are agencies.
Yeah, you work with a ton of agencies.
Yeah.
Yeah, who are buying on iHeart on behalf of their clients.
Right, exactly. But I will tell you, one of the innovative things we do is a lot of agencies who want to go after RFPs. We have a division of our company that actually partners exclusively with an agency to go after a piece of business together. And we bring in our research, we bring in all our creative, everything we have to go after an RFP together and win together. And that's been a very unusual, because the word partnership can be used very loosely, but this is when you both put skin in the game and you both have the risk and you do it together. So we have this division of the company that does a lot of government RFPs for all the, the big campaigns that you hear about, health and, vaccines and anything, voting, you name it. And we will align ourselves with a particular agency to go after and pursue business together. So that's kind of an unusual for a media company to do that, win or lose together. So that's another thing we do in terms of our relationship with agencies. But certainly we value and respect agencies in the world, and I think the ones we have the best relationships with are the ones that are not guarding, their clients, but more like we're all going to win. I guess the word is collaboration.
Yeah.
And if we can work with an agency that wants to collaborate, because I used to be a CMO of an ad agency in Georgetown. And one of the things that struck me funny was that, we didn't really meet with media reps. And I was like, some of the best ideas, come from media, because they know how to leverage and use their audiences. And that was shocking to me that why would you not want to take meetings, and it was, a little unfortunate, but it was enough for me to say, I'm going back to the media world, so those are the kinds of agencies we like to collaborate with that are, really open to ideas and how can we really help the client win together, is my quick answer on that.
Got it. So is there a specific campaign or program that you worked on, or that you worked with the agencies on, that really taught you something really important, either because it was a huge flop and it taught you something that you want to try to never do again, or it was a huge success for you?
Yeah. Well, I can give you one example, and unfortunately, it won't be like with having worked with an agency, okay, but it's an example of success. There is a university that just has a Buick image. They've been around forever, and they wanted to shed that image and become a lot more appealing and innovative. What we did is we used the power of influence with personalities that had great relationships with their listeners, and we used data-driven tools, and kind of like the message was like rock your career. If you don't like what you're doing right now, if this is not what you think is why you're on this earth, you can change that. You don't have to live the rest of your life, doing a job that you're not passionate about. And sometimes it means taking a few steps back and learning a different craft. I felt like a lot of pressure for this particular campaign because of the fact that we had a dean from a business school putting himself on the line. He was going against the grain of what the agency had, what the university had traditionally done. The end result was that they signed on like 150 brand new students at 40,000 a clip.
Wow.
And I mean, they had an 18-time return on their investment.
Oh.
And now they're talking about tripling their budget, for next year. So to me, what I learned is to trust my instincts, my guts, bring my team together, and really put our best resources and also have the best measurement of the results so we could keep track on what was happening. But what was really cool about it is the client did their own data analysis, because we could show them how many impressions, we could show them how many click-throughs, but at the end of the day, what we didn't have was who signed up, to be a student. So because of that relationship and because of their transparency, they were able to get 3 times the budget for next year in order to do this campaign. So I guess for me, it was more about knowing that we made a difference, that we really, we didn't just take their money and it didn't work. We pivoted along the way, and we adjusted things. But when that happens and there's that kind of harmony, it's inevitable that it's going to be successful. And it was. And I felt good because I remember the dean saying, well, if it doesn't work, I guess I'll be fired. and that's a lot, to hear. And I said, I'll tell you what, I said, we'll hire you.
Right.
If that happens.
Well, he put himself on the line and you put yourself on the line too.
But at the end of the day, when you're sincere and you're being real and you're having that intellectual honesty about how everything's going along the way, and I'm not saying it was a straight flight. I mean, there were some hiccups along the way, but we got through it because I think that was that underpinning of trust. And once you have that, and somebody means, is in it for the right reasons, and you're willing to focus on working towards that goal of success together. But it's not just like a media company just saying, hey, do all this stuff and hopefully it works. If it doesn't, it was nice seeing you. It was great. So I don't know if that's a good story or not, but that's the story and I'm sticking by it.
I love it. So I have some kind of rapid fire questions just for fun that aren't necessarily related to marketing directly, to kind of wrap things up. The first is there a band or a movie or a book or a quote that really inspires you, and what is it about that inspires you, or a sports team even? Yeah. Okay.
Well, no, it's funny. I have a couple of things that are my go-to. I think you can see behind me, the 4 boys from Liverpool.
Well, my next question was going to be, who's the best Beatle, John, Paul, George, or Ringo, and why? So you can add that if you'd like.
Well, I think that it's really about the sum of its parts. I think what made the Beatles so special was that it was 4 unique individuals who all came together to become a whole. Yeah. And I think it's the best example of what happens when people come together for a common goal.
Come together right now? Come together right now?
Over me. Exactly. And what's really cool about what they represent is that they weren't together that long. Right. But what they created, the magic of what they created through those years, is unparalleled to this day. So as far as that goes, I was kind of a Paul McCartney guy, and but as they started to go off on their own, I just had tremendous respect for George Harrison and Ringo. I mean, Ringo's crazy. I mean, right now, I mean, just the fact that he's out doing the All-Star Band,
Yeah.
and certainly John's legend in music is just, when you go back and really listen to John's creations, and it just worked.
Yeah.
It just worked. And to me, that's the kind of harmony you hope for when you're working with anybody. And of course, there's going to be the fights and all that other stuff. But that last time when they performed on the roof with all that angst and all that personality conflicts, at the end of the day, they made phenomenal music that day on the roof. It was a great exclamation point.
It was. It was perfect. It was actually a perfect way to end.
Yeah, to who they are. And I'm so glad they resurrected that whole film and all that footage and everything, so we can see, hey, you know what, they worked it out. They worked it out. I guess my favorite quote, if you don't mind me sharing, is John F. Kennedy. And it's, we need men who can dream of things that never were. And I think that's what makes the world go around, is that you have to have these dreamers, and you have to have these people that see things that aren't obvious to everybody else. And there always has to be enough of that going on. And no matter what people say to bring them down, those dreamers are the ones that help us move forward. Because where would we be without a lot of them? Movie Pulp Fiction. And I've seen a lot of movies in my life, but that, to me, the way they took everything in different order, and it was all about the randomness of what can happen if you're in the wrong place or the right place. It was just beautifully done. It's a classic. But those are the things that come to mind.
I love it. I love it. I'm curious if there's something else that inspires you. So outside of soccer, outside of music, and outside of your family, is there anything else that you find joy? Like, do you have any other hobbies or things that you love?
There are things I want to travel more. And my wife just got back from Italy with my daughter. And, and she just had a baby. I'm a new grandfather.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. Sonny's going to be a year old. And, the fact that my wife and my daughter went away to Italy together just kind of reminded me of when my father and I took a trip before the pandemic to Italy. At 90 years old, the two of us, I couldn't even keep up with them. Went to Italy, and I just realized there's such a world out there to see, and I'd like to, do a lot more travel. My mom was a world traveler and went to every continent on this planet.
Wow.
And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but I just know that, she always said, travel while you're young and see the world. And so that's one thing I'm really going to try to focus more on. I think my golf game is my golf game. It is what it is. But those types of things. And then of course, to enjoy just simple things, because when you do have a grandkid and you see life through their eyes, you all of a sudden you appreciate that leaf that he's pointing to in the tree and saying, wow, that really is amazing, that we take it for granted. And just seeing life through his eyes and seeing him discover things, helps you rediscover things again.
That's spectacular. I think often we forget that the journey is we all think we're working towards a destination, when the reality is the journey is the ride.
Right.
And we're on the ride. You got to enjoy the ride, because the destination is later. You focus on the ride.
Yeah, the long unwinding road, right?
Yeah. Well, I loved your Kennedy quote, also aligned nicely with, you could say, I'm a dreamer, I'm not the only one. So you have some Beatles lore woven into your life, which is pretty awesome.
Well, listen, I think everybody needs a soundtrack in their life.
Yeah.
And everybody has different, for some people it's Frank Sinatra, other people it's AC/DC,
yeah,
it's Metallica, whatever gives you game.
Yeah.
I think that's where being at iHeart and just, being able to celebrate music, celebrate new artists. It's just what everyone needs in order to, have that common thread, is their enjoyment of music and really the way it makes them feel.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I never took country in as a form of music that I listen to regularly. But I got to tell you, if you if you haven't been to a country concert, you got the best fans and the best artists in terms
Yeah.
of their connection. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's powerful. And when I didn't fully understand country, I do now and understand that relationship that and how good it makes people feel. And every single word to every song you hear it sing. And it's something to appreciate. And also, how kind the country artists are,
Mm.
and how appreciative they are of their success and how humble they are, more so than any genre of music, I think.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
that's some nice inside information about, the music world that I appreciate. So I just want to thank you. So Cliff Chiet is the Chief Integrated Marketing Director for iHeartMedia. Thanks so much. This has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate it.
Well, listen, I think you and I could talk for hours, and I know we don't have hours. But
Well, and we may, but just not for
well,
now.
I hope we continue the conversation and get to know each other. And certainly appreciate the opportunity to talk about things that are near and dear to me.